So I'm gonna circle back to this point about how you continue to learn. I think you touched on it a little bit because we are here at Kellogg in the business of helping people learn and grow. But one more question around sort of some philosophy that you might have around change management. Every organization at some point has to insert some change. Whether it's good news and we've got to change and we've got to modify and we've got to catch that wave, or we've got to turn things around in this division or that department or whatever it might be. But every leader has to face this change management process at some point. So what are your thoughts on how you think about that and maybe some successes or even share a failure maybe along the way that you might have come across?
When you think about change, my philosophy on change is the easiest way to enable change with individuals, with a team, or with people is when there's a foundation of trust, a belief that there's integrity and trust at the core of why you're asking me to change or why we need to change. I say that because if you take that on the surface for a second, then you have to invest the time and energy to establish that kind of relationship. And it gets back to what I said earlier, and that is, it starts with communication. Let's just break it down. There's no trust without a relationship of some kind. Because if you don't know anybody on the street and they come up and tell you to do something, you're like, I don't know you. I don't know what your motives are. I don't know who you are. So there's no trust without relationship. There's no relationship without communication and interaction of some kind. It might not even be personal, face-to-face, but if I'm hearing from people, if I'm seeing people on video, it's still some kind of interaction and communication. So if you believe change is necessary, and the harder it is, the more important this is, then you have to invest a lot of energy in relationships and communication. So I do a lot of town halls, skip levels, live webcasts, Q&As, so that there's a constant relationship, even if it's on video or even if it's in a big forum, a big auditorium, there's constant interaction and communication so that people are getting to know me and I'm getting to know what's on their minds. Might not, when it comes through the questions or comes through the submissions online or comes through anything. And in the skip levels, you get more of a chance, actually smaller group environment to touch people and have a, but those get cascaded very quickly because you want people to get to know you as a person.
You take a very personal approach to it.
And once you have those, once you've invested significantly in that, then people, presumably if you're a good person, people then believe and understand that you have the right motives, the right capability, and the right intentions. So that when you ask for something or you make the pitch of the need for something, people know at the core, at the root of all that, are the right motives and the right intentions. So we went through some of the most dramatic change in our history in the last 5 or 6, 7, 8 years. During the 2006 to 2009 kind of crisis of Ford Motor Company and global financial crisis in the industry, during that time period, I was responsible for our manufacturing worldwide, so over 100 manufacturing plants worldwide, and all of our labor negotiations. And during that time period, we had to recommend 16 plant closures in North America. We had 100,000 workers in our plants in 2000. In 2008, we had 40,000. And we closed 16 plants. So governors calling, everyone calling, saying, save my plant. The Detroit Free Press said I was one part deity, one part Grim Reaper. that was a nice title to have. Nice. I'd rather be called other things. But we had to make decisions on what plants stayed open, what plants closed, how many people left, all these things. But you think about what happened in that time period at Ford. We got ahead of the financial crisis by restructuring early and getting ahead of that. And then we leveraged our relationships that have been established at many levels with the union to negotiate new contracts when we didn't have to. We weren't filing for bankruptcy. And we were able to take advantage of those relationships, trust us, we're doing the right things, even though it's going to be hard to change all this. And in the end, we'll come out much better and stronger. And in the last few years, we've had record profits. We've had record profit sharing checks for our workers. And we've hired over 20,000 workers in the last 3.5 years in the United States.
Yeah.
Coming out of that. But there was a lot of trust that had to be there to make all this change happen and to do so quickly in an environment that wasn't forced,
Right.
it's voluntary,
Right.
and come out the other end and believe. It took a lot of communication. I actually physically went to every plant, did town halls with thousands of employees at each plant, explaining the business case for why, where we were going. I got booed, heckled sometimes, but at the end of the day, through a lot of work, through a lot of people, courageous people, we end up with a business that's in a far different place than it was when it started.